My name is Kyle, and I'm turning 29 this year. I work at a construction equipment parts factory, and I'm in sales. Right after high school, I joined this company. I really wanted to go to college, but due to family circumstances, I couldn't. My parents passed away when I was in elementary school. They were involved in a car accident. After that, I bounced around living with relatives. It wasn't that I was ever mistreated. All of my relatives were kind to me. But no matter where I lived or how much love I received, I always felt alone. That feeling increasingly isolated me from others. Being a dependent, I couldn't voice my desire to go to college. I wanted to work and support myself as soon as possible. The simple reason I chose this company was because they offered employee housing. That being said, it's a big company locally, and the pay is decent. In sales at this company, I'm the only one with just a high school diploma. Most employees here have a bachelor's degree. To make up for my educational background, I worked really hard. I couldn't afford to lose my job. I was desperate, I guess. The lucky part was that the company's CEO is a wonderful man. During the interview, he learned about my background and decided to hire me on the spot. Even after I was hired, he treated me like a son and mentored me to be a respectable employee. I'm forever grateful to CEO. One day, my mentor and boss, CEO, called me in privately. I was asked to come without letting other employees know. Something was definitely up. I was a bit anxious. Recently, there were some unsettling rumors circulating around the office. CEO has a daughter, and the man who married into the family, becoming the son-in-law, is now the vice president. The issue was with the vice president. The vice president seemed eager to expand the business, while the CEO wanted to maintain the current state amid the recession. Their opinions were clearly divided. Opinions in the company were split between Team CEO and Team Vice President. Currently, the position of the CEO is in jeopardy due to the majority of the Vice President's group. Feeling a bit nervous, I knocked on the door to CEO's office. Inside, CEO and his secretary, Kathy, were waiting for me. I was prompted to sit on the couch in the reception area. CEO's request was a simple one. Kyle, I'm sorry, but I need you to leave the company. The CEO's face was filled with distress. Seeing his expression, I immediately replied, understood. I could clearly sense how much he had struggled to come to this decision. I didn't want to cause him any more pain. I figured you'd agree without hesitation. Kyle, I'm sorry. If it's for the good of the company, I don't mind. Thank you for everything until now. I bowed deeply in gratitude. The CEO placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder and repeated, I'm sorry. His strong hand, which had always supported me. Recalling its warmth, I felt my eyes watering. As I looked up, our eyes met, and I noticed that the CEO's eyes were also filled with tears. And so, I resigned from the company I had served for many years. After leaving my job, to be honest, I felt demotivated. I felt completely burned out. I just didn't have any motivation. During those days, out of the blue, I received a call from Kathy, the CEO's secretary. She asked if we could meet up, and we agreed to catch up at a cafe near the station. After hanging up, I realized it had been a while since I'd met anyone. I see my blurry face in the mirror. Remembering Kathy, always poised and confident, I felt a bit embarrassed about my current state. I decided to freshen up before meeting her. So, I headed to a local barber shop. When I arrived at the cafe, Kathy was already there. She spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Instead of her usual office attire, she was wearing a casual white shirt and jeans. In this outfit, she seemed almost like a different person, and it took me aback for a moment. Kyle, it's been a while, "Have you been? You look refreshed, and that's a relief." Kathy looked me up and down, smiling as if relieved. I was genuinely glad I had decided to get a haircut. As we waited for our drinks, she filled me in on the current state of the company. It seems the vice president had almost taken over the company. The CEO is planning to retire soon and live a quiet life. But the vice president is his son-in-law. I worried about whether the CEO would have a place to go after retirement. When I shared my concerns with Kathy, she said, "Don't worry." She mentioned that the CEO plans to move to New Zealand, where his granddaughter lives. His granddaughter didn't quite get along with her parents, so she went abroad for her studies and eventually got married there. She now lives in New Zealand. She had invited him to live with her after his retirement. Knowing that the CEO has a place to go, I felt relieved. Perhaps my relief was evident on my face because Kathy looked at me and smiled warmly. "I'm relieved to see you haven't changed. I was really worried that you might have burned yourself out." She hit the nail on the head, and I almost spit out the coffee I was drinking. Her insight into people is truly sharp. I recalled how she was the first to notice the vice president's schemes. "I was surprised to get your call out of the blue. I couldn't imagine Kathy having a reason to reach out to me directly. If you hadn't found a job yet, I have one I'd like to introduce you to. Interested?" Kathy said with a smile. The company she introduced me to was located on a hill in the countryside. It is about a 20-minute drive from my apartment. Using the address she gave me, I drove up a winding hill and saw a large fenced-off area. There was grass, but it didn't look like a golf practice range. As I got out of the car, I heard dogs barking. Holding the reference letter Kathy had given me, I headed to the reception. Entering the building, I was amazed. Dogs were lounging everywhere. I soon realized they were all elderly. This seemed to be a nursing home for senior dogs. They take in dogs whose owners can no longer care for them and look after them till the end. The staff explained the facility's mission to me. While we spoke, an elderly dog lay at my feet. "From today, this will be my workplace." I got a big surprise during the facility's introduction. The representative of the facility was Kathy, and the chairman was the same CEO from before. It turns out Kathy had been volunteering for pet rescue activities. This facility was an extension of that, and recently, the CEO had funded its completion. The pay would be significantly less than before, but the time spent with the animals seemed worth it. "Thank you for hiring me," I said, bowing to the facility staff. A new chapter in my life had begun. Working here, I realized this job was right for me. The elderly dogs, who had lost their places, reminded me of myself, making me grow fonder of them. "Hello, Kyle." I was surprised to see Kathy, who was supposed to be working as the CEO's secretary during the day, appear with a bright expression. With a mischievous look on her face, she cheerfully said, "I've resigned," raising her hands in the air. She looked like an innocent child. She had planned to quit when the CEO retired, but the vice president gave her a hard time, so she couldn't. Today, she was finally free and looked ecstatic about it. "Now, I can truly dedicate myself to this." Rolling up her shirt sleeves, Kathy said. Dogs gathered around her, clearly fond of her. She lovingly patted each one on the head. At that moment, she explained why she started this facility. Surprisingly, she grew up under circumstances similar to mine. She lost her parents at an early age and shuffled between relatives' homes. She opened up to me about her past. After becoming an adult and seeing elderly dogs being abandoned, she felt a deep connection as if it mirrored her own story. The pain of being left behind by someone dear and loved. She understood that feeling all too deeply, which drove her to start this facility. A place where elderly dogs can spend their twilight years in peace. She plans to put more effort into rescuing cats and supporting community cats in the future. She has also partnered with a nearby veterinary clinic, preparing to accommodate dogs and cats that get sick. Whether it's intentional or not, even if there was a special reason, those little ones wouldn't understand. All they feel is the sadness of being left behind. I just want to heal that pain, Kathy said with a smile. I was taken in by CEO, and then by you, Kathy. I guess I'm not much different from these little ones. I immediately regretted what sounded like a self-deprecating remark. It's not like that at all. I called out to you because you're special, Kyle. I needed you and no one else. Feeling as if he'd been given a pick-up line, I felt my cheeks redden. It was embarrassingly endearing, making it hard to look her straight in the face. Come on, look at me. Kathy's hands gently covered my warm cheeks. Her touch was refreshingly cool and comforting. As I looked in the direction she was turning his head to, she gave me a big smile and said, "Look, isn't this little one's belly so cute?" She giggled as she stuck her pug dog belly out in front of me. "But you know, we have to be careful with this. It might lead to an umbilical hernia," she intently explained while observing the pug's belly. I was so distracted by the warmth of her touch on my cheek that I couldn't take in a word she said. There was Kathy, the professional executive assistant, and now, in front of me, a Kathy who laughs innocently. Both versions of her were overwhelmingly wonderful. I was genuinely falling for Kathy. I felt genuinely happy thinking about living and protecting this facility together, which was also her dream. I wrote a letter updating my old boss, who's now retired in New Zealand, about the facility and about Kathy. How I learned the value of life by interacting with old dogs. Every day is filled with new discoveries, which I pinned down. Weeks later, a reply came from CEO. In his neat handwriting, it read, "This is a job suitable for a gentleman like you." It moved me. The fact that the boss is pleased with the work I'm doing means the world to me. It's what made me the happiest. A year after CEO retired, the company I used to work for went bankrupt. The company's downfall seemed to be due to the poor management skills of the former vice president who took over. I heard that the employees who lost their jobs were in distress. One day, there was a note on the door saying bankrupt, and there had been no communication for a long time after. Many of my former colleagues were married and had small children. Seeing them in the streets during the day filled me with a sense of helplessness. When I was fired, there were other colleagues who also left. They were single like me. I believe CEO was doing his best to overcome the challenges by downsizing. I decided to discuss something with Kathy. I asked her if she could hire any of my former colleagues who lost their jobs. I even bowed my head, asking her to prioritize those with families over single individuals like me. Kathy seemed taken aback by my sudden request. "I understand how you feel, Kyle, but you realize it's hard to hire that many people at once, right?" "True, this business has just started. It's unstable, and there are financial issues for sure. Yet, there was a clear need for more hands. I might not understand since I don't have a family, but I believe those who do are struggling to provide for them." I expressed my genuine feelings to Kathy. I just wish those who have the family, something I can't seem to have, find happiness. I felt that was the right path. Kathy furrowed her brows at my words. "You are so kind, Kyle. Remember that you have every right to have a family too." She then took quick action. People who get things done act quickly. She immediately contacted our former colleagues, arranged interviews for those interested in jobs. Not everyone is fit for this job. Those with pet allergies can't do it. But she didn't merely screen them out. She offered alternatives to those who did not seem to be able to do this job. Even the former boss from New Zealand stepped in, pledging financial support, and we managed to secure employment opportunities for all those interested. Of course, I stayed and worked alongside Kathy. Besides taking care of the animals, I did my best to assist her in her tasks. I wanted to ease her burden even a little. Once things settled down, she looked a tad slimmer. Everyone seems to enjoy their work. That's what makes me happiest. Feeling the happiness of others is truly joyful. I think you taught me that, she said in the office one evening. I looked at her, taken aback. Her face was serene, much like that of an angel. Her beauty wasn't just external. It radiated from within. I don't think so. Maybe it's just that things we can't have always seem more appealing, right? When the workday drew to a close, children would come after school, waiting for their working parents. They wanted to play with the dogs and cats. Watching them, my eyes softened. You two can have a family, Kyle. Why are you giving up before even trying? Kathy said with a slightly irritated tone. I couldn't understand why she seemed upset. I was perplexed. I was at a loss for words. Suddenly, she stood up from her chair, looking me straight in the eyes. Okay, fine, I'll be your family. No, let me be your family. Well, that's not right. Please make me your bride. I was dumbfounded by Kathy's words. I must have had the most clueless expression on my face. After all, it's Kathy we're talking about. She's a top-notch executive assistant, and now an incredibly successful entrepreneur. She's beautiful, competent, cute, and kind-hearted. The idea of such a woman wanting to be my family was unfathomable, almost like I was hearing things. And I thought make me your wife was my imagination and desire running wild. I found myself wondering if daydreams could really be this vivid. Essentially, my brain had gone into a state of shock, unable to process what just happened. Hey, making a lady say this much and then going silent isn't nice. Is it because I'm older? Seeing me frozen and speechless, Kathy looked concerned. I shouldn't make her wear that expression. I always want her to have that innocent smile on her face. Would God be angry if I took the responsibility to protect her happiness and smile? Kathy's eyes, waiting for my reply, were filled with apprehension. Please be my wife. Please become my family and stay by my side forever. I'd be honored. Upon hearing my response, Kathy's face lit up with a radiant smile. From that moment on, both in our personal and professional lives, we chose to walk the same path together. I was somewhat embarrassed, but happy. Those feelings welled up inside me. Over the next few years, the facility gradually expanded. Truth be told, I hadn't yet formally proposed to Kathy. To be honest, both Kathy and I had been so busy with work that it wasn't a priority for a few years. Every day, there were cats and dogs that needed rescuing, and there was hardly a day when all the older dogs at the facility were in good health. With the growth of the business, there was coordination with animal hospitals and other NPOs, meetings with local government. There was hardly a moment to breathe. Do you plan on marrying your work, Kyle? Kathy said as if she was tired of waiting. Puppies, only born last month, playfully swarmed around her feet. The older dogs were each lying in the sunlight, soaking up the warmth. I do think about you, you know, I replied, lifting one of the puppies. The puppy joyfully licked my cheek. Come on, right now, it should be about me, not the puppy. Apparently, she was a bit jealous I was giving the puppy more attention. Kathy pouted, turning her face away in mock annoyance. Her cheeks puffed out in a pout, making her look as adorable as a young girl. It's hard to believe she's the sharp businesswoman running this major operation. Kathy, will you be my family? Holding up the puppy, I used it like a ventriloquist's puppet to propose to her. She chuckled confidently, saying, "There's more you should be saying, right?" Indeed, I had left things a bit ambiguous. I then spoke earnestly to her. I've loved you for a long time. You got it. Perfect. She cheerfully hugged me. The puppy, trapped between us, let out a tiny whimper. I felt the warmth of both the puppy and her. Maybe this was what happiness felt like. It felt incredibly soft and fluffy, like the scent of sunlight, something precious I wanted to cherish and protect. She is the one for me. Perfect.